Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we're going to talk about an absolutely insane story out of the city of Baltimore, out of the state of Maryland, that was so ridiculous and absurd, I did not, in fact, believe it was real. But of course, as Anna Kasparian likes to interrupt me to tell you, it is in fact real.
It's real!
You see that? Just so rude right there, because I said that she interrupts whenever she does that, and honestly, I can't stand it. And yes, this case is crazy. So what ended up happening was we had a politically woke movement in order to reduce prison population, and also in addition to that, go soft on juvenile offenders. And when you combine that with the sad state of juvenile crime in the city of Baltimore, you end up with a perplexing problem, which is, of course, where do you send serious violent juvenile offenders? And of course, the answer that Baltimore and maybe the state of Maryland came up with was hotels in good neighborhoods. No, I'm not kidding about this, and unfortunately, not only did this program get discovered, but it was discovered due to the worst yet most predictable circumstances, which is serious violent felons reoffending. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise from me to you, because I want you guys to imagine in your brain parts, what is the worst way to discover that violent juvenile teens, felons from Baltimore, are being housed or hoteled in your wealthy neighborhood? Do you have an answer in your brain? Please type it in the comments, because you're going to be impressed by how bad this program actually was, the lack of foresight that these people had, especially considering that when this story broke, random people on Facebook obviously understood the dire consequences of these particular actions. Now again, brace yourselves, because this is insane.
And we have an update to a story we first brought you last night. State officials are keeping quiet after a teen is accused of sexually assaulting his assigned caregiver at a local hotel.
Yeah, you heard that right. The incident in this particular case that caused this entire community to discover that serious violent felon juveniles were being placed in their community was an assault on a female that was actually working as a caregiver to these juveniles. The person who is supposed to provide for them, a parental structure and all of that, was assaulted by a serious violent felon who, spoiler alert, was convicted of the exact same crime. This person should have been in prison for sexually assaulting a woman, and guess what? He was sent to a hotel instead, and then he did the same thing. He committed the same crime. This is the most foreseeable circumstances and outcome of a program this poorly thought out ever, but this is what happens when the abolish the police, or more accurately, the abolish the prison people, end up getting into government and start crafting policy.
Well, state officials have hardly been eager to talk about this case, which has opened a string of nagging questions. Among them, how many juveniles with violent past are being housed in neighborhood hotels?
Now, I just want to point something out, a basic premise that you guys might have heard before, but I just want you to know that Maryland is in fact a part of the United States, and at least in the United States of America, we operate under the premise that the government works for us, works for the citizens, works for the people. And that means that they have to operate with the consent of the governed. And it also means that when you ask government officials questions, basic logical questions, like how many juvenile offenders are you hoteling in communities that have nothing to do with these offenders, you should be able to answer that question. But the state of Maryland is not answering that. Baltimore city officials are not answering that, because let me be clear, these juveniles are from Baltimore. And to me, that is really bad, because while we're going to hear throughout the course of this story that this hotel ended its arrangement with the city of Baltimore, that's just this hotel, this location in this community. We don't know how widespread this is. We don't know how many of these kids are moved in and around the state. And considering they allowed somebody with an exact criminal history that he repeated in a hotel, and that is the only reason why we are aware of this program, it has disastrous implications. What happens when one of these kids is a murderer and then he repeats that same violent history in another hotel? Do we just throw our hands up, ask the state what's going on, and have them say nothing again? Seems like that's the direction that this city and this state want to go in, but it's not the direction this community wants to go in.
Only now are neighbors learning that juveniles with violent pasts were being housed here in this Owings Mills hotel. And only now are they learning that one of those juveniles is accused accused of sexually assaulting his female caretaker here at the Home 2 Suites Hotel.
No one knew that these folk were being housed in Owings Mills, which was very concerning.
The juvenile, who already had been convicted on an unrelated rape charge, allegedly went on the attack here in April. In a statement, the owners of the hotel acknowledged that Home 2 Suites Owings Mills previously had an arrangement with Baltimore County Social Services in which the county could purchase room rentals for temporary placement of children in foster care, along with their caretakers. The arrangement is no longer in place.
Now look, I spoiled that portion of the story that this kid who is accused of rape was already convicted of rape and thus should have never been put in this hotel, paid for by the taxpayers, and given a female caregiver of all people, especially considering his criminal history. But the way that Baltimore Fox 45, which by the way is normally an absolutely stellar outlet, kind of brushes past that, to me is a bit troubling. That's kind of the whole heart of the story, is that you put somebody who has a propensity to offend, who was convicted, not accused in another case, convicted of this crime, instead of in jail, instead of in juvenile hall, in a hotel, and then he repeated the crime. And then this uncovers an additional scandal, additional craziness, which is there may be more violent felons in your community in hotels in the state of Maryland that you just never heard of. And I understand why the hotels might take up this deal. It seems to be sold as something from the Baltimore County, like community services or social services department, as, hey, look, these are just innocent baby angel foster kids. There's nothing that we could do. But it turns out these are serious hardened criminals that need to repeat these crimes in order to feed their starving family, apparently, according to the left-wing abolish the prisons crowd. Now, I happen to think that if you commit a serious violent felony, especially that serious violent felony, then maybe, just maybe, those are the people that we incarcerate. But I'm a crazy radical conservative, and that makes me a very bad person that shouldn't be trusted on these particular policies.
If they were properly managing these children, if they were properly having the oversight, it would not be an issue at all either. But they're not.
In a letter to the governor, the leader of the Randallstown branch of the NAACP urged the state to find more appropriate housing for foster children.
So real quick, I just want to point out that even though I'm going to contradict one of the things that this guy brings up, I'm in agreement with him about 85%. This is a guy who lives in a community that is not like Baltimore. They don't expect the criminality of Baltimore or anything like that, and he's absolutely angry that they ended up housing juvenile criminals from Baltimore in these hotels, and then the logical consequences ended up erupting from that. That being said, he's talking about more oversight or all that and how that would have fixed it, but the fact of the matter is, oversight is not a substitute for sending criminals to the place where criminals need to go, which is prison, or in this particular case, juvenile detention. The fact of the matter is, I don't care how many government monitors are observing this particular program, this is an inherently dangerous situation. In addition to that, this program is completely secret, so we don't know how much oversight there is or anything like that. We don't know if they're wearing ankle monitors, we don't know what the deal is, but I do understand the core of what he's trying to say, which is, hey, look, if kids who need to be in foster care, there's no room for them in foster homes, then this is fine for normal kids that are in foster care, maybe not ones with serious violent felonies who are put in a position to reoffend and commit the same serious violent felony.
Why are you picking an affluent Black community? Okay, it almost seems like you're intentionally trying to run it down.
Now again, overall, I'm not against this guy, but the fact of the matter is, this is a place that's not like Baltimore, and introducing people from Baltimore will probably make it more like Baltimore, so I understand his frustration.
So far, our questions to state officials have fallen on deaf ears. Neither the governor, nor House Speaker Adrian Jones, nor Senate President Bill Ferguson have commented.
Now, like I said earlier on in this video, they're not getting answers from any level of the statewide government, although I would find it interesting if they actually contacted the Baltimore city government to see if they could get a statement from an official, maybe somebody who has a hand in the placement of these people, or anyone in government, not just people from the hotel. But I do give Fox 45 Baltimore credit for at least getting some information from the hotel and finding out that this particular program has in fact been ended. That being said, the Facebook comments are A+, at least the ones who made the news. I'm sure the ones that didn't make the news are S tier level, but let's just hear some of these comments.
But on social media, reaction has been swift. Why was he not in jail, asked one reader.
Again, a sage question from a normal person who sees this story come across the wire on Facebook, and I give credit where credit is due. And the thing is, if the answer to this question is he served his time, it was a lengthy and definitely well-deserved time for the crime that he was convicted of, therefore he was just out of jail, but he had nowhere to go, that's why he was in the foster care system, then I'd say, okay, makes perfect sense. But we all know that's not the case. We all understand that this teen offender, this juvenile offender, ended up getting a slap on the wrist, ended up not going to prison, and if he did go to prison, not for nearly long enough, and he ended up being hoteled and given a female care provider, and that had disastrous results.
Another asked, why was a female worker assigned to a male juvenile who was already known for previous sexual assault?
Again, another great question right there. Why would you assign a female caregiver who's going without protection to somebody with a history specifically of assaulting females? Why would it not register in your brain that maybe that's a bad idea with terrible results? And of course, the answer to that question is Baltimore sucks. The state of Maryland, not very good either, but definitely not as bad as the city of Baltimore itself. And this is the kind of thing that these people think are good ideas. In fact, I'm sure there are many people in government and of course in political activism who are trying to think of ways that this innocent little baby sexual assaulter is actually an angel and honestly Aladdin and probably was just trying to feed his starving family, even though he's in foster care, therefore he doesn't have a family that can take care of him. And we should just give him some love and hugs and another female provider. Oh my God, he did it again. What are we even thinking?
You can't blame the state for trying to find a placement, wrote another reader. There is a lack of group homes and out-of-home placements. Who do you blame?
Excuse me. Hi, I have an answer right here. I definitely blame the Baltimore juvenile offender system, the state of Maryland, and the woke criminal justice reforms that they passed to go soft on juveniles, and anyone and everyone who thought it was a good idea to give this person a female care provider in a hotel rather than send him to juvenile detention for that previous very serious crime. That is exactly who I would blame in this scenario if you're asking me. If you want an objective assessment, that's it. I can give you a chart if you guys need it. If you don't understand why I would blame those people specifically, and of course the criminal for committing the crime, then I will send you the chart via the postage. So definitely leave your address in the comments and I'll mail you the letter, as long as you write me a 17,000 word essay that is of course written in another language and then translated back to English, back to the other language and back to English. You will get that letter from me. Trust me.
And from another reader, that child obviously has problems beyond what foster care or the state can handle. Another reader responds, in reality, I'm more qualified to help than the government.
Now look, the comments that they're going to put on the local news aren't going to go further than basic common sense. Obviously, there's a lot more that people have to say about this particular issue, but unlike Project Baltimore, unlike Fox 45, I don't have to follow the regular ordinary guidelines, so what I'm going to do is give you guys the opportunity and behave yourselves. No swearing, no words, because we are a respectful platform over here, but let me know what you think about this program, how it was discovered, what should happen to this individual in terms of the criminal justice system going forward, and if you think that the major issue at hand is that they were only putting them up in 3-star hotels, when in reality they should have put them up in 5-star hotels. Again, let me know all your comments down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on all my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute craziness of Baltimore's new juvenile reform system. Till next time.